It happened when I was 8, Halloween night. My parents went to bed early. I stayed up in the living room, the blue light from the TV flickering across the walls. Everything felt still, too still. Then I heard it. The sound of our porch swing, moving back and forth, back and forth. I remember thinking, maybe a raccoon climbed on it. But then came a second sound. That was not an animal. I tiptoed toward the window, pulled the curtain just enough to see the porch, and I froze. There was a woman sitting on our swing, middle-aged, messy gray hair, wearing a pale blue hospital gown, the kind with strings in the back. Her arms were covered in something dark. At first I thought it was mud, but then the porch light flickered, and I realized it was blood. She wasn't swinging anymore, just sitting, staring straight ahead, breathing slow and loud. There was a knife in her lap. I didn't scream. I just stepped back, shaking, and ran to my parents' room. I couldn't even talk, just pointed toward the living room. My dad was irritated. He thought I was imagining things, said maybe I saw a costume through the window. When I wouldn't stop crying, he finally sighed, grabbed my wrist and said, annoyed, "Fine, let's prove it to you." I begged him not to. He didn't listen. He swung the door open halfway and said, "See? There's nothing out." He stopped mid-sentence, and I'll never forget the sound he made. A sharp inhale, like the air had frozen in his throat, because she was standing now, right at the bottom of the porch steps, knife hanging at her side, head tilted, looking directly at us. The porch light flickered again, and for a split second, I saw the hospital ID tag on her wrist. It had my town's hospital name on it, and under patient name was our address. My dad locked every bolt, told my mom to call the police, then ran for his gun. From the window, I saw her walking in slow circles in our yard, dragging the knife against the wooden fence. Each scrape sounded like nails. Then she stopped and said, clear as day, "He's not your father." Then she smiled and walked toward the street, disappearing into the dark. The police came 15 minutes later, found her 2 blocks away, trying to break into someone else's house. They said she'd escaped from a psychiatric ward earlier that night, but when they showed my dad the report, his face went pale, because the address listed on her intake form was the house we lived in. I haven't stayed up late on Halloween since, but sometimes, when the night is quiet, I still hear the porch swing moving, back and forth, back and forth. He's not your father. The man in the scarecrow mask knew my name. He said it the moment I opened the door, and that was before I even realized he wasn't supposed to know where I lived. It was Halloween night, cold, too quiet, the kind of quiet that makes you feel watched. I had just finished handing out candy to the last few kids and was cleaning up the wrappers from the floor. Then I heard the knock again. 3 slow hits against the front gate. When I opened the door, he was standing there. A man in a scarecrow costume, mask cracked down the middle, straw poking out of his collar, and black gloves that looked wet. He didn't move, didn't speak, just stared. I forced a laugh and dropped some candy into his hands. He stood still, and then he knocked again, on the door that was still open. My smile froze. "You already got some," I said. He tilted his head, the cracked mask shifting with a faint squeak, and then, through that hollow slit where the mouth should have been, he whispered, "Are you sure?" I shut the door hard, and that was the last thing I did without fear that night. I peeked through the window. He was still standing there, motionless. Minutes passed. No movement. Then, finally, he turned and walked away. Or at least, I thought he did. Because a few minutes later, there was another sound. But this time, it came from inside. My breath caught in my throat. I lived alone. I grabbed my phone, whispering to the 911 operator, "Someone's in my house." Her voice was faint. The line crackled. "Stay on the line, ma'am. Units are..." The call broke up with static. Then I heard it. Slow, steady breathing. Not through the phone. From upstairs. I crept toward the staircase, every step groaning under my weight. Halfway up, I saw something on the railing. A thin piece of black thread, frayed at the end, like it had been torn from a glove. I whispered, "Hello?" Nothing. Then, a door closed upstairs. Slowly. The sound of metal scraping wood. I reached my bedroom door. The window was open, curtains moving in the wind. And then, from behind me, a voice. Calm. Low. Familiar. You know what I like most about Halloween? That people forget to lock their doors. I turned, and the scarecrow was standing in the doorway. He lunged. Gloved hands gripped my wrists, forcing me backward. I dropped the phone. The call was still connected. Somewhere far away, the operator was shouting my name. Darkness. When I opened my eyes, I was tied to a chair in the basement. The rope burned against my skin. He was pacing behind me, humming softly. The same tone as the knock. "I know where you work, what time you leave, when you come back." He circled closer. "You never notice me, do you? Not at the coffee shop, not at the bus stop, not even when I stand across the street from your house." I tried to scream, but he pressed a finger to his mask. Shh. Then, in the distance, I heard the sirens. He stopped. "They're faster this year," he whispered, "but not fast enough." He walked toward the door, but before leaving, he set something on the table beside me, a small paper note. I could barely read it through the tears. It said, "See you next Halloween." The police found me minutes later. No sign of forced entry, no fingerprints, just that note. Every year since, on Halloween night, I find a small scarecrow left at my gate, always delivered by a different child. Different mask, different voice, but the same black gloves. And every time, the same words stitched into the fabric. "See you next Halloween." My father grew up in a small farming town, quiet, isolated, surrounded by endless forest. Every Halloween, he would tell one story, the story that made our family stop celebrating the holiday for good. He would always say, "They buried her too soon." It was a time of sickness, fast and deadly. The rule was simple. If someone appeared dead, they were buried immediately to prevent the illness from spreading. My great-aunt Eliza fell ill and passed quietly in her bed. By morning, she was in the ground, a simple wooden coffin nailed shut in the family plot behind the farmhouse. 2 dogs, Ash and Rue, always followed her everywhere. No one expected them to do anything unusual. They just stayed beside the grave. At night, strange noises came from the cemetery. Scratching, thumps, like something beneath the soil trying to push out. Ash and Rue clawed at the dirt, frantic. My great-grandfather took a lantern and called the family. Within the hour, they decided to open the coffin. The dogs wouldn't stop. When they lifted the lid, a heavy, humid smell of earth and decay hit them. There was no time for ceremony. They opened it right there, under the lantern light. Eliza was lying there, pale, cold, but there were unmistakable signs she had woken up underground. Her fingernails were broken, her hands shredded and bloody. Deep, desperate scratches covered the inside of the coffin lid, as if she had fought the darkness until her very last breath. She hadn't made it, but she hadn't been dead when they buried her. They sealed the coffin again, this time with prayers whispered through trembling lips. No one spoke on the way back, not even the dogs. Years passed. The grave remains there, under a crooked oak at the edge of town, and every Halloween, people swear they hear scratching beneath the soil. Faint, steady, as if someone is still trying to claw their way out. Some say the ground above her grave never stays smooth, that by morning, the dirt looks freshly turned. My father always said, looking into the distance, we never celebrated Halloween the same way again, because that mistake, burying someone who is still alive, left a mark that even the earth refused to forget.